Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, watchers, classmates, and fellow viewers. Today I'm going to be doing a debate of sorts regarding a certain issue in the anime fandom that I have been puzzled with for some time now. What I'm going to be arguing today is the idea that sexual fan service in the confines of the anime fandom as a point of criticism is a worthless and hollow criticism and is general not a subject that is worth complaining over. In order to support this argument, I have three of the most common complaints that I have personally encountered whenever I've discussed anime. Let us go ahead and define what exactly sexual fan service would exactly describe. On page 76 of Carrie Tugger's I Love Geeks official handbook, the term fan service is defined according to her. In manga and anime, it is the unnecessary inclusion of sexy content. It could be nudity, sex, or just a bishoujo dressed in a maid uniform. It's servicing the fan and giving him what he wants. Now, there's one big issue I have with this definition overall, and that is that it specifically focuses on the male demographic in terms of addressing sexual fan service, which is not bad, but it's not a very inclusive or well-rounded definition when we're looking at the big picture of anime fan service. Now let's take a look at a second definition, this time from the Anime News Network in their lexicons. Now, according to their definition of fan service, the Anime News Network specifically states the addition of scenes of scantily clothed, seductively posed, well-endowed women, or something similar. Panty shots, also common in anime, and especially manga aimed at female readers, are similar situations involving male characters. There's a similar problem that occurs with this definition, and that is, while it may address specific content that is addressed to male viewers of fan service, like the previous definition, it doesn't exactly address the type of content that is aimed at female viewers. So, with that said, it's still not a very well-rounded definition of fan service overall. So what I had to do in order to be fair and try to make a more universal definition, or one that could be more applicable to all types of scenarios, was take the gender equation out entirely and just focus on what does exactly fan service on a sexual level imply, and this is my own definition. Fan service refers to any sexually implicit or explicit scenario where the physical attribute of any character becomes highlighted for a period of time. This definition seems to me to be far more applicable in terms of the scenario that we're talking about, because not only does it tell about the physical attribute of any character, meaning both male and female, but it also emphasizes that it could appeal to any type of fan. Now that we have taken care of and established what exactly sexual fan service is in the confines of the anime fandom, let's take a look at the most common arguments that are used against fan service. The first common argument that I have encountered is it distracts the focus of the show from the story and the characters. My first counter argument to that complaint is that fan service is sort of like a mask, in that people are allowing themselves to be distracted by what's really in front of them, rather than looking what's behind the mask, what's really going on, and what's essential to what the final product is. If you focus on the fan service too much, you are allowing yourself to be distracted from something that really shouldn't matter in the long run, rather than focusing on what really does matter, which is the story, the consistency of the world's rules, the character development, the writing, etc. Counter-argument number two is that a bad story is a bad story regardless. A bad character is a bad character regardless. No amount of boobs, butts, panty shots, or any other type of fan service, regardless of who it's targeted to, what orientation it focuses on, is going to matter in terms of the story, characters, and so on. Nothing about that is going to matter. It doesn't hinder in any way, or it doesn't enhance it in any way. Now, to emphasize this point, I'm going to focus on two different characters from two different series and show you that just because the show has fan service does not affect the writing or the nature of a character being well-rounded or well-developed. Here's an example. Hideyoshi from Battlegirl's Time Paradox is a prime example of a terrible character. This is the reason why. She has no development. Her voice acting is incredibly annoying. Her script is filled with pop culture references and absolutely no development for her whatsoever. She is a complete airhead at the beginning of the show, and she remains that way at the end of the show. But that's just one of many problems with Battlegirl's Time Paradox. Now, moving on to Marnock Scramble's main character, Roomba. However, she has a character who has just suffered her own attempted murder, trying to solve and figure out what she wants to do with her life. However, in the moments of the films, of the Marnock Scramble films, she experienced moments of fear, guilt, anger, vengeance, regret, and desperation. She wants to survive. She wants to try and figure out what to do with herself. And honestly, that sounds like a very well-rounded character to me. Now, the second complaint I usually hear with regards to anime fan service is that anime fan service prevents a show from ever being good or of high quality. And if this argument were to hold water, this would have to be a universal principle, is that no matter how good an anime is, whether it's a series or a film, no matter how good it is, every time it always has fan service, it immediately has to drop into a bad category. This, however, based on the data that I've collected off a few, just for the sake of being a little bit more compact, is not the case. For example, Love Hina, which is a prime example of a harem anime, and for those of you who may not be aware, a harem anime is consisting of a primary male character centered around in a scenario where he is surrounded by plenty of beautiful young women. Now, according to the Anime News Network, they have a system which allows for an 11-point system, or 11-scale grading system, ranging from criticism such as the worst ever to rankings such as masterpiece. For Love Hina specifically, a series that I have been looking into personally for the last several weeks, that has a total, as of this date, December 11, 2013, has a total of 5,061 individual ratings. Now, from decent to masterpiece, which is the scale that I looked at specifically, that's consisting of 5 individual scales on that system. So not even a majority out of the 11 present. There is a total of an 86% positive rating on a harem anime. Now let's flip the switch a little bit and going into an anime known as Ouran High School Host Club. For those of you who may not be aware, Ouran High School Host Club is what's known as a male harem, or a reverse harem if you prefer that harem, which is a scenario just like Love Hina, except it's a primary female character surrounded by tons of gorgeous men. Now, we must ask the question, how many ratings are on Ouran High School Host Club that allow us to judge it so? Well, according to the numbers, there is 6,255 current ratings on Ouran High School Host Club in terms of people who have rated the show. And how much of that percentage voted a positive rating based on decent to masterpiece? 96% positive rating. So already, we have the exact reverse opposite scenario of a reverse harem, which is akin to a harem anime that is guaranteed for fan service targeted to women, might I add, that is rated a 96% positive rating. Now, to drive this point even further, let's take a look at one of the most arguably famous series to ever have existed in terms of anime, and that is Neon Genesis Evangelion. The ratings for that anime series is going to 9,498 individual ratings. Now, how many of those rated a show like Evangelion, a show which has been notorious and is well known for fan service? 91%. 91% of those people, of nearly 10,000, rated the show in a somewhat positive manner. And now we move on to my final third common complaint that I have heard regarding use of fan service and anime as a criticism. Now, I must admit that this is a particular criticism that I was hesitant to put in or start arguing because of the sensitive nature of this potential issue. And let me make this perfectly clear. I'm not here to start a flame war. I'm not here to cause a massive amount of controversy. I'm simply trying to present a good debate and trying to present my own argument. And if you are disagreeing with me, perfectly fine. You're entitled to your own opinion. But this is, I feel like if I'm going to be thorough and I'm going to be perfectly honest in terms of what I have encountered, I must include this. And the third common criticism that I have heard using anime fan services as a criticism is that it is demeaning and disempowering to women because of their revealing outfits. So my counter argument in that statement is that while, yes, the outfit is revealing, and yes, people could potentially say that, the focus is not supposed to be about what the character is wearing. In fact, I'm going to use that outfit, very outfit they use against them. Here's how. To emphasize this point, let's take a look at one particular anime that is ongoing right now known as Kill La Kill, which focuses on a young woman named Matoi who has to go and take on an entire school in order to find out the details of her father's death. Now, during the course of the show, she wears this one particular outfit known as Senketsu, which allows her to transform in this very sort of according to the characters in the show, a very exhibitionist getup. This is a term that she herself uses against her main opponent in episode 3, Lady Satsuki, when she describes her outfit as an exhibitionist getup. However, Satsuki later replies to her remarks of an exhibitionist getup in saying, quote, "The fact that you are embarrassed by the values of the masses only proves how small you are. Satsuki Kirin will show neither shame nor hesitation. She doesn't need to worry about what other people say of her. She doesn't need to be concerned about what the people think and say like, wow, you're wearing a really sexy outfit. But no, you need to like, you know what? I'm comfortable with my own body. I know what I need to do. I'm going to get the job done and I'm not going to have anyone stop me or condemn me for it or because of my body or my outfit. She doesn't care what they think. She does what she needs to do, and she's comfortable enough in her own skin and has the confidence and self-esteem to do it." Now, for those who are in my class watching this, I have to acknowledge that how do we make this concept connect to anything that we were related to or researching earlier on in the year? Well, this goes back to Emily Fink's article on slut shaming, the article known as Slut Shaming and Concern Trolling in Geek Culture. And in that said article, Emily Fink describes her experiences at multiple cons, such as dressing up as cosplay of a Star Trek Federation uniform, specifically a miniskirt, and this is her exact experience and people's reactions to her outfit, and I quote, "A constant flow of women leaning and stage whispering in mock concern of how short my skirt was. A constant flow of men grilling me about whether I had watched the series and trying to trip me on trivia." People who wear revealing outfits are people who should not be condemned because of the fact that, or the idea of, they're just trying to grab attention, or they're really not a fan, they're not someone who really loves the series. But instead, and this is going to be probably the most controversial bit I say here, or maybe the most challenging bit. What right do any one of you, including myself, might I add, have a right to judge anyone who wears a revealing outfit of cosplay or has a right to judge any character in fanservice anime when none of us, including me, might I add, that none of us have the guts to wear an outfit that revealing? That's a question I like to pose to the rest of you, is that would you have the guts or the gall to wear an outfit like that? The confidence, being comfortable in your own skin, and wearing that without making a scene. And not just in general, not making a big deal about it. Now, I can understand perfectly if people felt like I attacked with that last statement, but let me just make this one last point perfectly clear, and then I shall wrap this up. If you personally do not like fan service in your shows, that is perfectly fine. It is no criticism to you as a person, it's just your matter of personal taste, and that is perfectly fine and you are entitled to them as such. However, when it comes to fan service, and if you are critiquing a show with fan service in it, do not ever use it as a point of criticism. Focus on what matters. Focus on the elements that are essential to create a final product: the story, the characters, the development, the atmosphere, the consistency of the world's rules, and all of those elements together are what the important elements of a show. Those are the crucial things you need, or some of the crucial elements that you need to push a story forward and to tell something in a narrative format, regardless of whatever you're doing. Fan service ultimately doesn't matter as a criticism. Plus, it is something that should never be condemned or worth complaining over in general. And this is just a simple truth, and you could look at numerous art sources throughout history and say this. Sexuality in art has existed for millennium. It is going to exist whether we admit it or not. Whether you can accept that or not is purely up to you. Now, again, if it's your personal preference, if you don't want to watch a show with anime fan service in it, or any fan service in any show, that's fine. That's your own taste. You're entitled to it. But that being said, we must be more critical and we must be a little bit more thorough and reasonable when it comes to really seeing what in a show matters. And for what I have ultimately seen and what I've ultimately concluded is that fan service as a criticism in anime is not a valid point of criticism. and it is not worth complaining over in general.